Hi again, Mark.
Right,
We're still on the same day. We're still
same
going
tie.
over, still the same clothes. And we're still talking about code of conduct. That's
Yeah,
kind of the section that we dedicated. But we're now talking about, we've talked about the fact that, there are several code of conducts introduced in the market, whether we're going to have unified code of conduct or not, we kind of left it unanswered. So that's been covered. We also talked about the fact that the National Register, you felt that now is stepping into what you feel a regulator should be, impartial and independent. So you said you
definitely.
felt that perhaps at some point there were comments made that indicated that NRPSI wasn't impartial on certain matters, but you feel more that it's happening more and more now. So they're more impartial and more independent, and therefore it's the register that you would recognize. Not you didn't say you would recommend, because you feel that you can't force interpreters to go and regulate themselves, but it might be something that interpreters should take on themselves. If they want to be professional and accountable, they should go and regulate themselves, the voluntary regulation, register with NRPSI or any regulatory bodies that they belong to. They need to be regulated. That's what.
Irina, let me just clarify. I would recommend NERPC. I can't mandate it.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
so
you
there's
did say
nothing in
that.
our contract that says they must be interpreters must be on NERPC. Working closely with Mike over the last 6 months, we are joined at the hip on many subjects, and I would recommend that everyone joins an association and becomes regulated. I agree with that completely.
Thank you. And he's very charismatic. He's not an interpreter, but he's very, very passionate about what he's working on at the moment, and he's
Yeah,
giving it all. He's very
yeah.
charismatic.
And his
Same
photos
issue.
of London are fantastic as well
Yeah,
on LinkedIn.
I think you two have got a lot in common, I think, with regards to passion, and get it all sorted and regulated. But we also touched on the subject that agencies will also do their part of regulation. Well, this is where actually I think there is a concern for many practitioners, because what we hear again from practitioners as a feedback is that although agencies would look into disciplinary matters, but quite often they would keep an put a close eye, blind eye on certain things. So for example, they will take the practitioner off the list as a punishment, but then they'll put them back on. So if there is integrity in question, I don't know. Do you not feel that agencies would always have that conflict of interest when it comes to disciplining, because they're always going to be on the chase of numbers? They will need to fulfill the contract, so they're always going to chase up the numbers. They need to extend their database to make sure they fill in the positions and assignments, and therefore, how are they independent when it comes to disciplinary proceedings? And who will be on the panel? Will it be members of staff of the agency, or will they invite police into the panel? Will they invite National Register to the panel? How is that going to work to make sure that it's done to the letter?
Okay, lots of questions there again. So let's deal with the first issue about, are they independent? They may not have been in the past, but certainly my 2 years at the Big Word, I dealt with so many complaints, minor ones. Now and again, you'd get a more serious one. And I believe that
Sorry,
they
can I
would.
just interrupt you? Sorry, Mark. I'm really sorry. It just came to me because when you spoke about your concern how regulatory bodies are not impartial, so just throwing to the same thing, do you believe that agencies can ensure you that they are impartial when it comes to disciplinary of interpreters who work for police, because they want to hang on to the numbers.
Okay, so I've looked, when I've done the audits, at discipline, and I chose the discipline issues I wanted to look at. I saw what the complaints were, and I saw the end results, and I'm satisfied that on every occasion that I audited, they did what I believe is the right thing. They did what I would have done. And I used to sit on discipline panels for police officers. As a detective superintendent, I sat on discipline panels, and I had the power to discipline in whatever way I wanted, including sacking them, and possibly the officers losing their pension, their rights to money that they've been putting in every month for many years. So I know what it's about. That's not independent, and the police discipline procedures were overseen but weren't independent. So are the agencies independent? No, because they are dealing with discipline themselves, unless they refer it to the CIOL or NERPC or NRCPD. But of course, many of these independent interpreters are not registered with some of those bodies. So are they independent? Have they been independent? Probably not. But we talked in the last session about the police approved interpreters, and what we're saying is we're going to oversee it. We are independent. You mentioned the word integrity in amongst all that introduction to this section. The police are independent. I want a Russian interpreter to attend Chelmsford Police Station at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, I don't care if it's Irina that turns up or someone else. What I do care is that when Irina turns up, she is qualified, vetted, and impartial. That's important to me. Now, if the police are overseeing discipline and Irina has done something wrong, and Irina is my best interpreter, she's the lady who lives nearest to Chelmsford, and I'm making that up because we're not giving away where you live. And if Irina is the most prolific interpreter for Essex Police, but has done something that spoils her integrity, if the agency decide to keep her on board, and I don't think that's right, the police don't think that's right, Irina is gone. She's no longer an approved interpreter for the police. That's the end of it. So my point here is we are independent. I want an interpreter there at 2 o'clock this afternoon. If I have to wait till 3 o'clock because Irina's been sacked, then I'll wait till 3 o'clock, because I don't want to prejudice the investigation with an interpreter who has no integrity or has a lack of integrity. So we will oversee the discipline that's being dealt with by the agencies. And if it's something that involves vetting, and we've had lots of incidents over the last year, 2 years, that didn't go to vetting that probably should have. If it involves vetting, then vetting will make that independent decision. Irina is now no longer MPPV3 vetted. That means you're off the police approved list straight away. It doesn't mean that you're off the NERPC register, because you may be able to do work at a lower vetted level. But the minute you lose your vetting, you come off our register. So I believe there are lots of independent checks and balances to make sure that the agencies will do the right thing in relation to discipline. And I said it in our last week's session, I'm saying it again, it is not a regular occurrence. It's not a regular occurrence that we are taking people off the register on a daily basis. Not in the police world. You're all out there doing a great job. You make mistakes, but so do cops, so do husbands, so do wives, so do bus drivers. We all make mistakes. We are not here to regulate, as in beat you up. We're here to ensure the integrity of police investigations. Does that answer your question fully?
Absolutely, yes. What I was going to say, that what you've actually said now, it makes it more clear. So the agencies will do the job when it comes to discipline if need be, if there are complaints. So they will deal with complaints. However, if I'm correct, you as a police will oversee what they're doing. So they're accountable to you. So you can always check what they've done. Because what we know is that it has been known when the interpreter has been suspended from the agency's list, and then they'll put them back on. So you would actually stop that from happening if you're not satisfied that this interpreter should never go back on again, if there are certain breaches that you can't possibly be satisfied that they can be just punished for a short while and then they suddenly all cured from whatever issue that was. So you would oversee that. So that gives some insurances. So in a way, you're gonna become a regulator, I think, you know, over a police list or police interpreters. So you're stepping into the regulation area. So you're going to be regulating. Is that right?
You're right. I don't want to. I think it's become necessary because we cannot mandate that every interpreter is on the NERPSI register. I want to come back on that word suspension.
But do you mandate that every interpreter is on your register?
Yes. Yeah. To do police work at the level that we set, which we know is MPPV3, DPI, DPSI, etc., and 400 hours at the moment. We'll talk about that in another session. You need to be a police approved interpreter, and we are working on that. It probably won't come out till next March. So nothing's changing at the moment. We've got to get our ducks in a row, if you like, around the country to make sure it suits our needs. And we've got to set this register up, this list. But yeah, that's correct. Okay. But I want to come back on suspension. It's all very well punishing an interpreter by suspending them for 3 months or whatever. What I'd rather do is find out what happened. Why did it happen? Whose fault's the wrong thing, but who was involved in it? And can we fix it so it doesn't happen again for that interpreter or that agency or that police service, and it doesn't happen to anyone else? And I can't think of an example at the moment, but if an interpreter is being punished financially, unless they've done it on purpose, they purposely taken, here's an example, they get a police booking and then something comes along that's far more lucrative. So at the last minute, they take the other booking and dump the police booking. That's an integrity issue for me, and I may even take that to vetting. But if we're going to punish them for 3 months in that way, I also want them to have a look at the code of conduct and see that they shouldn't have done that in the first place. It's not a professional thing to do. I understand why you do it financially, but we're going to fix the finances as well. Later episode. So I don't just want to penalise interpreters. I want to fix the problems so that everyone is working with integrity so that the police get what they need. But I think we are going to become some form of regulator only for police interpreters and translators, no one else.
That has never come up before, but very interesting. More on this later. But also, what we're going to touch on is what you just, I think, give a little preview, is that perhaps a refresher, a training, you know, or CPD or something for those who perhaps need those refreshers. So continuous professional development, and we'll come to that at the next. But before we go to the next section, what I'd like to ask you, you know, when we're talking about procedure of discipline, then if you have got interpreter who actually has breached the code of conduct and it has been established and it has been proved, would you communicate with other regulators in the market, like an IPSI and a CPD, IBSLI? Would you let them know that you've had that issue? Because this practitioner possibly could be also on the list of other regulators. And if it's quite a broad issue like integrity is integrity. So integrity not just for police work, integrity is that can affect any work. It's just, you know, it's something you can't really only, you know, demonstrate in one field of work and then not doing it elsewhere. So it's not selective. So integrity is pretty much affecting all the work. So will you communicate with other regulatory bodies on those matters so that they will also, I don't know, somehow take measures that this practitioner is no longer practicing?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Irina, and it opens a massive debate. So first of all, NRCPD have made it quite clear to me that they can have two bites at the cherry. So if I'm dealing with a BSL interpreter who has done something that we feel is inappropriate, and therefore I strike them from our approved list, or vetting, take their MPPV3 away, then NERPC have said, NRCPD have said, if they are a member of NRCPD, legally, NRCPD can take action against them as well, regardless of what we've done. And I think that's appropriate. Let's take an example, and I'm making it up, it's not a real one. A spoken interpreter chats up a victim. So a male interpreter starts to chat up in between interviews a witness or a victim. So that's quite unprofessional. He's only met this woman because he's taken a statement from her. He may not lose his vetting, but the first time he'll be spoken to and told that, you know, that's not appropriate, don't do that. That's not how you get a girlfriend. Although I guess it sometimes happens, but not in police time, not while we're paying you. The second time it happens, it's a discipline issue. They've been told, they've had their behaviour pointed out to them and told that it's inappropriate. It happens again, and we start to pick up a pattern. So we decide that they're no longer suitable to do police work. Is it appropriate to leave them with a cancer victim in a hospital? Is it appropriate for them to work in local authority? If we've identified that there is a pattern of behaviour that individual is not going to change, then I believe the police have a duty of care to pass that information to other regulatory bodies such as NERPC. And the bit I've talked about with the two bites of the cherry with NRCPD, I believe that's also the case with NERPC. I'd have to check, and Mike will be able to confirm, but I believe that's the case as well. The police are there to protect the public. You talked earlier in another session about the public being protected by having good interpreters. We protect all members of society, those that have done something wrong, those that have had wrong done to them, and those that have witnessed it, and those that go to public meetings and go to work. Everyone is protected by the police. If we have a duty of care to pass that information on, as long as it's within GDPR, then we will do so, yeah.
Thank you. Mark, I'd like to finish this section on a positive note. I really liked what you said, that all interpreters are so fantastic that you hardly ever needed to discipline them. So let's leave the session on this positive note, and next section we'll move into continuous professional development. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Serena.